If you needed yet another example of how terrible Twitter is, this is certainly one to keep note of. TMZ says, and yeah, we're using TMZ for this. They actually covered this completely fine in my opinion. You'll see the article itself in a moment. They say, the hellscape of Twitter is at it again, this time arguing over Anne Frank, a girl killed in the Holocaust for being Jewish, actually had white privilege. Before we even go on, I'm just going to leave it there for a moment, let that settle in. Okay, continuing. I also walk back what I said regarding TMZ covering this fine a little bit because they included an emoji here. Like, really, guys? I didn't notice that the first time I read this article. Anyways, they do include the sources, though, which we'll get to. Let's see what they say. You might have noticed the late Holocaust victim was trending Saturday, but finding out why is disheartening. Some, it seems, have floated an argument that Frank benefited from white privilege in Nazi Germany, an argument that is rightly being shot down left and right. Speaking of left and right, I did see people on both sides of the political spectrum calling this sort of take out. Now, to be fair, I'm sure many would argue that this take is like an extreme left take as opposed to more of an extreme right-leaning take. I think that's a fair thing to say. Let me again, though, emphasize that this only got like 13 likes, and I saw thousands of people, both left and right, calling this take out. And there's another one as well. And of course, you got a bunch of people like me that aren't on any political side that also would call this stuff out as well. So let's be clear there. It's not just people on the left and right. I should have said that a little better. Anyways, dude says,
hold on, I want to make sure I say this carefully. Yeah, Anne Frank had white privilege. Bad things happen to people with white privilege also, but don't tell the whites that.
How this person thought it was ever appropriate to say such a thing is extremely baffling. If you don't know, Anne Frank also, to my recollection, she lost her life at age 15. And something else baffling about this dude, he claims to be a Marxist humanist. I have no idea how he claims to be a humanist when he displays such a level of discompassion to Holocaust victims, but sure. The same guy would later make a statement about the backlash he got, and I don't have much to say about this. In my opinion, this is just hollow words. Make of it what you will. He would also later add this as well, saying that he messed up, with a bit of profanity there, and also saying that he was careless and he'll learn. It seems most people were not really taking his air quotes apology, if that's what it was, very well. Some people, on the other hand, did say that they appreciated and accepted the apology. Once again, though, you can see the majority of people, at least from the comments that I've seen, are not really having it. And here's a couple more examples of such. I'll leave this on screen for a few more seconds. And now, moving on. Returning to TMZ, they say, unclear how this toxic discourse first started, but it seems to stem from a warped notion that Jews had the benefit of their skin color to go unnoticed in public, if only temporarily, during that bleak time in history, while POC historically haven't been able to do so. The theory is so twisted, and yet it's being defended by a select few on the Bird app, despite a vast majority of folks swooping in to bat down the rhetoric by noting that Jews were in fact seen and treated as an inferior race in an ethnic sense, and that Anne Frank was murdered, specifically because she was Jewish. Plus, she was in hiding. Now, I don't believe there's any empirical evidence as to how she actually lost her life. However, what we do know, again to my recollection, is that she was in hiding. Officers found out where she was. They took her and took her to a camp where she eventually lost her life. Where it gets debated is because there was a typhus outbreak in the camp that ended up having around 20,000 prisoners losing their life. So people are not sure if she lost her life directly from what the Nazis did to her, or if it was indirectly from taking her to a camp with a typhus epidemic. Ultimately, though, I think it's fair to say that these people got her killed, whatever the way. I mean, awful topic. And once more, returning to TMZ, you can see a tweet here from Claire calling out the take from people who are, you know what we're talking about here. Point is, Claire gets a response from this other person who basically doubles down on the claim about her allegedly having a white privilege. And now, just for a moment, let's remove all the context of what we're talking about here and just take a look at this take. This person saying that all white people are safe. Like, what? Like, does this person actually think nothing bad ever happens to white people? Dude, what? Taking a look at some of the responses that person got, one from JC reads, every time I forget just how horrible this corner of Twitter is, you guys find a way to remind me that I didn't think poorly enough of you. Thanks, I guess. Mara posting Lemillion saying, that wasn't very plus ultra of you. What the heck is happening? How are we at this point? Log off. And here we have another example of someone supporting the discourse, supporting the claim that Anne Frank has white privilege, where this person says,
lol, this might blow your mind, but Jewish people were not considered white and had features that differentiated them clearly from white people at the time. Those who didn't have said features would very often pass and live as non-Jewish. Same can be said for queers. White equals shield.
Oh, so this person isn't just taking a jab at Jewish people, they're also taking a jab at white LGBT people. Someone else supporting that take reads,
Nazis will always see white queer people as white first. White people have that protection. White queers will always have the option to hide.
So yeah, once again, this is a perfect example of how Twitter police literally don't know what they're talking about, like at all. They just say things without knowing what they're talking about. As Ava Aurora basically points out, Anne Frank was hiding. They found her hiding spot. They dragged her out of it, did horrific things to her, and she lost her life at like age 15. And of course, this happened to many, millions of people. Don't know about the age part. I don't know the demographics of all that, but you get the point that I'm making. Oh my gosh, hold on, Commando. Oh, that's where Commando then made this take from the TMZ article. I see. TMZ would further say, as someone wisely put it, Anne Frank did not have white privilege. You want to know why? Jewish people are not included when white nationalists define the perfect Aryan race. If you think she did, tell that to all the other innocent Jewish people forced into concentration camps for not being white enough. In other words, Jews were not considered one and the same as Nazis at the time. Yeah, obviously. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this even needs to be pointed out for anybody. This is insane. By said Nazis, even pigmentation-wise, evidenced in their literal extermination by the millions. Yes. Again, the fact that this needs to be pointed out. How is this, as that tweet said too, how is this where we're at right now? Oh my gosh. They say, this harkens back to another weird debate from a few years ago. Oh, what's this? When folks were going after Helen Keller, oh, I kind of remember this actually, vaguely, who was both blind and deaf for only having achieved such notoriety and success in her day due to her own white privilege. Oh my gosh, that was bad. This is much worse. This also seems to be in the same vein as what Whoopi Goldberg put forth on The View this year, when she likened the Holocaust to one group of white people against another, and not wanting to conflate that with the racial oppression experienced by African Americans. She was suspended and ultimately apologized, as some have noted. Convos like these devolve into a contest of suffering, with this new trend just being the latest iteration. No, Anne Frank was not an oppressor. Toss that thinking into the garbage immediately. But yeah, they do make a good point about that. The trend of who suffers the greatest, who is the most oppressed, who is the most biggest victim. You see stuff like that on Twitter a lot. It's really weird to me. Personally, I've had a lot of issues in my life. I try to keep that stuff to myself. That's not always healthy. The reason I do though is because I want to help people. Like if I have a choice, let's say there's two options, right? Option A, you're a victim, and the rest of your life, you're going to look at yourself as a victim and you're going to tell everybody that you're a victim. Option 2, despite terrible things that may have happened to you, you're going to do your best to lead a life where you can give back and help others. I would pick option 2. Wait, did I start with A and B? I think I kind of messed that up. You get the point though. Okay, A or B, 1 or 2, you get the point. See, now I'm already feeling bad for saying that I've had a lot of issues in my life. Like, let me clarify. While that is true, I've also had a lot of great things in my life, and I'm very happy with where I'm at right now, being able to do this, being able to talk about these things and have a great community and see what you guys say in the comments and all that, being able to train martial arts, just being able to do things like this. No, I'm very happy. And I also think a lot of people share my sentiment there, at least on some level. For example, a lot of times victims of abuse and things like that, they won't actually come forward. And there are many reasons why. One of the biggest reasons, though, at least from the research I've done, and to a lesser extent, experiences I've had multiple times where people tried to take advantage, is that they don't want to be seen as a victim. Like, you come forward with this stuff and people, they might hear about it and they're going to view you as a victim. A lot of people would rather just keep that stuff inside, not talk about it, and try to move on with their lives. Now, again, as I mentioned, this is not always healthy. However, I'm not a psychologist or anything like that, so I'm not going to get into too much detail here. As a matter of fact, this is where I'll wrap this up. That's pretty much the situation with Anne Frank trending on Twitter the other day. May have missed some things, obviously. This is just a segment covering the gist of it. Ultimately, though, let me know what you think about this in the comments. This will be the final segment for today. I'll catch you in the comments and tomorrow for the next segment.